How is it going to PC Nation? Welcome back to a brand new video. Sorry for the lack of uploading. I keep forgetting to fucking upload. I don't know why. But welcome back to a brand new episode of Unknown History. And today we're doing the 18 Kingdoms of China. Yes, at one point in China's history there was 18 kingdoms. In 206 BCE, China fell. After the Qin dynasty fell, China was split into 18 kingdoms by 18 different warlords because there's been so many civil wars in China. Now there's a one-party rule system. If you want to, because I think there's two, but I can't say the other country because you get banned off of here because whatever. I believe that they're a country, and I believe that, but we can't get into that. But China has been split so many times that, because it keeps falling, it basically, how China started was as a separated state anyways, that they don't believe exists because they don't think it's real. They don't think the Three Kingdoms was a real period in China's history. So a lot of historians don't believe that it didn't exist. But if you ever watch Oversimplified's video, it seems very real. Oversimplified's video on the Three Kingdoms of China, it seems very real to me. But China basically, that's how it started, was always being separated, and eventually all these civil wars would come to peace, and one party would rule like the mainland, and the other party would rule the other country. But basically, eventually China would not be split anymore. One of the 18 warlords would eventually is the term, would eventually get the strength to get enough army, get enough support to eventually rule China again, because they have multiple dynasties after the Qin. They don't just have one dynasty. But it's just having 18 kingdoms, you're always going to have, basically, if you're from one kingdom, you go into another kingdom, it's just going to be straight up hate. You're always going to be hated, just as a citizen of one kingdom, because there's just so much hatred surrounding you, because you have 17 other kingdoms around you, 17 other people claiming to be the ruler of one country. It never works out, and it didn't work out eventually for 17 other kingdoms. Eventually one does become the ruler of the mainland of China. But just think about that. The 18 different kingdoms. No one thinks about that. They know about the 16 kingdoms of China, but no one knew that there's 18 kingdoms. It's not very talked about. A lot of people knew the Three Kingdoms of China but the thing is, does that timeline exist? If we consider the Qin one of the first Chinese dynasties, and if we consider the dynasty, but if we consider that a dynasty, why isn't the time before the dynasties considered a real, time? Why is the Three Kingdoms not considered a real, a real time in Chinese history? Because you think about it, you have that whole history. It's a lot of history that they're erasing. That's multiple decades of history that you're just like, oh, this doesn't exist. I'm like, but it does. It's very interesting. And that's how it is with the multiple kingdoms. They don't think the multiple kingdoms existed either when China was split so many times, like the 16 kingdoms and the 18 kingdoms. But they do. A lot of these things, they do exist, and they are recorded. It's not a brief history, because it's a brief history of those 18 kingdoms, because eventually they would become a they would become one China again under one dynasty. It would become a dynasty. It just feels like if you're a dynasty in China, you are eventually going to fall, and when you fall, China's going to split into a civil war again. And it just feels like how to describe a Chinese dynasty is, you're a dynasty, you're up here. Alright, civil unrest, the citizens are starting to hate you because it's just power gets to your head. Every king, every emperor, power gets to your head. Okay, the citizens are tired of this shit. Revolt. Alright, we don't have one leader, multiple families don't want too many noble families. Alright, screw this nonsense, split China up, make them make them multiple kingdoms. Alright, we're tired of being multiple kingdoms, let's just kill them all. Kill the rest of them. Become a dynasty again. It just seems like that's the repeat process of a Chinese dynasty. Become king, become dynasty, get the people to hate you, die. Your successors die because you're the first ruler. Split China up into multiple kingdoms or multiple ruling families, basically. Can't decide who is emperor. Well, I'm emperor. No, I'm emperor. Get army. Kill rest of people. Unite China. Successors mess it up. Dynasty die. China split up again. Big kingdom becomes big dynasty. Successors mess it up again. Die. Repeat. And that's how I feel about just the multiple kingdoms of China in general. It's just, you're going to become a dynasty, and then you're just going to fall because your successors don't care about the people. It's just how it feels like in the medieval kingdoms. They just don't care. And if you cared about the people, your dynasty would still be. Probably China today would still be a dynasty. Would still be a kingdom. Because there has to be an ancestor. There has to be someone out there that's their ancestor was one of the emperors of China. There has to be people out there. China's so big. There has to be somebody to be like, yeah, my ancestor was part of the Han Dynasty or Qin Dynasty or, Wei Dynasty. All, you know what I mean? But hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, press the share button, press the like button, press the red shiny subscribe button, press the bell so you're notified every time I upload a video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.